An economy can be simply defined as a system for the production, consumption, and exchange of goods and services using a commonly agreed mechanic for exchange, something that we'll call a currency. In a game economy, the content that we produce within the game constitute the goods and services of an economy. The consumers of this content are our players, and we, as the game's developers, are the producers of this content. So, as the creators of this game economy, the last thing that we need to define is the currency, the means with which we exchange content with our players. Just like in a real economy, where the consumers and producers have placed an agreed upon value on certain currencies, like a country's national currency, or precious commodities like gold and silver. Game economies in free-to-play mobile games have also evolved to accept a few mainstream types of commonly accepted currency. The first currency that we accept as producers of free-to-play games content is time invested by a player. Let's call this the time currency. The second currency that we accept is ad currency, or the money derived from a player watching an ad. And the third type of currency that we accept, of course, is IAP, or real money that players spend to buy content within our games. Finally, we can also create derived currencies like gems, gold, energy, tokens, whatever it is. But all of these currencies are typically exchanged and derived using the other three major currencies of time, ads, or IAP. So now that we know what currencies we accept for our content, let's start packaging our content into a way that it can be consumed by players and can be exchanged for currency. In free-to-play mobile games, we like to view content in three different ways. The first type of content is what we call progression content. Typically, progression content can be unlocked by any player simply through playing or investing time currency to earn these content unlocks. Typical examples of progression content are leveling up within your game, whereby players will unlock new levels, new characters, or new abilities as they invest time to level up within the game. For a match-3 or puzzle game, for example, the progression content would be chapters and levels that unlock as the player invests time to complete different levels and unlock new chapters and content. The second type of good that we can package within our game are what we call functional content. Functional content has an impact on the player's experience and their ability to complete and consume other content. For example, buff items inside of a game that provide the player with a functional enhancement to the gaming experience would be an example of functional content. Boosters in a match-3 game, revives in an endless runner game. All of these things that give a functional impact or enhancement to the player's game experience can be categorized into functional content. The third and final major type of content within a free-to-play game is vanity content. Vanity content, as its name implies, makes the player's experience look better or feel better, but doesn't necessarily impart any functional benefits towards gameplay. Specific examples of vanity content include player avatars, character skins, shiny items that look great and have special effects, but don't impart any functional benefit towards gameplay. The important thing to note about these three types of content packaging is that they don't have to be mutually exclusive. For example, you can match functional contents with vanity contents and create a class of functional vanity items that can be sold for different kinds of currencies. Content packaging is important because it's one of the primary methods via which we impact a main goal of game monetization, and that is to create a desire to purchase within the players. Once we've packaged our content in such a way that it generates a desire to purchase by the players, we then need to look at the second objective of game monetization, and that is to promote and price our packaged content in such a way that we create a perception of value by the player base. For example, given that in a free-to-play game, all content within the game can eventually be earned for free by the player just through playing, How do you create the perception of value that watching an ad or paying some amount of money is better value than investing your time? And the way that you balance, fine-tune, and also influence the perception of value for your content packages within your game is by creating comparative options. For example, if there's a functional vanity item within your game called the Whirlpool Sword, and typically it takes a player anywhere from 12 to 24 hours of gameplay time in order to attain that item, can we also create another currency via which the player can obtain this item in a shorter time? Maybe each day they can watch an ad that gives them a period of time that increases their drop rate for this item, hence reducing the amount of time that they need to invest in order to obtain this item. Or you could create a content package like a loot box that costs $1 to buy and has a good chance of dropping the Whirlpool blade. By creating options for players of different currencies, whether it's investing their play time, investing their time to watch an ad, or to spend some money in order to be able to obtain that item, you create a comparison via which they can decide which type of content and which currency provides them with the most value. And this takes us to the third objective of effective game monetization: pricing your content affordably and attractively to all demographic audience groups. To understand how to do this properly, we need to understand the concept of price elasticity. Price elasticity determines how much of a certain good you can sell to a particular audience at a certain price. What this means from a monetization design perspective is that charging more for an item doesn't necessarily equate to you making more money. In fact, most of the time, charging a higher price simply means you sell less of each item. There are two things that you should really think about when designing and optimizing for price elasticity. Firstly, understand your demographic audience groups and think about what price is completely affordable for each group of audiences. Secondly, consider offering the item in different currencies so that different demographic groups can all afford it by either spending real money, watching ads, or investing time. For example, you might price an offer that highly desirable Whirlpool Sword in your game by selling it for $10 direct purchase IAP. Or players could earn the same item by investing 20 to 40 hours of gameplay time, with an option for shortening the time investment requirement by watching ads. By pricing your item in this way, you've created a situation where every demographic group in your game can affordably attain the item either through an investment of time playing the game, an investment of time watching ads, or a direct purchase with real money. Adult audiences may prefer to not spend a lot of time and instead pay $10 and buy the item. Whereas teens or preteen audiences may prefer to play the game and watch a few ads to shorten the playtime required in order to obtain the item. So before we jump into a real life example of how to apply the concepts of monetization that you've learned in this section, let's do a quick review of the key concepts that we've covered. Firstly, we've learned about how to design an effective game economy, including the currencies that we use to exchange goods and services or content that we can package as a producer for players to consume. Secondly, we've covered the basics of the three objectives of effective game monetization: creating content packages that are highly desirable for players to purchase. Secondly, tying that content to different currencies such as playtime invested, ad time invested, or real money IAP, so that different demographic groups from preteens to mature adults can have an option to earn or purchase this content using the currency that players view gives them the best perception of value. And lastly, we've talked about the third objective of effective game monetization, which is pricing your content affordably in a variety of different currencies so that different players can afford to consume your content, so that you can optimize the amount of revenue generated by setting the right price elasticity levels.